Today we're going to talk about how to get ABA services for your child. So first and foremost, what exactly is ABA? ABA stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis. It's a type of therapy that focuses on improving behaviors through reinforcement, and it's specifically utilized for children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. It's evidence-based. That means experts in the field have reviewed the studies on it and agreed that ABA therapy is effective. In short, it's designed to increase helpful behaviors and decrease harmful behaviors. So, what is it actually used for? What kind of behaviors are we talking about? Well, some of the things include improving language and communication skills, improving attention, focus, and social skills, and teaching routines. Before we talk about how to get the district to fund the service, we need to discuss the ways that students can actually receive ABA. So first, a child can be in a private school that specializes in ABA therapy. These are usually one-to-one settings with someone like a board-certified behavior analyst, known as a BCBA, or it could be individuals trained in ABA, like registered behavior technicians. They'll work individually with your child to provide ABA throughout the school day. Next, a child can be in a school that has ABA-informed teaching methodologies. This isn't strict ABA, which is one-to-one, but the staff are generally trained to utilize many of the principles of ABA, but in smaller group settings, oftentimes with a lot of opportunities for one-to-one attention. These can be in full private schools or programs, or it can also be in what's known as a non-public school, if you're in New York City. There's also push-in ABA. This is when a child is in a school that doesn't have ABA, but an outside provider from a private company comes into the school and sits with your child throughout the entire school day and helps him or her to learn by using those principles of ABA therapy. There's also Community-based ABA. These would be ABA providers who go with your child around the community and work on skills like social communication or helping to transition to postgraduate life. Maybe how to safely cross the street with an adult or how to pay at a store. These have to be related to IEP annual and transitionary goals. Finally, there's Home-based ABA. Here, a provider would come to your home after school or on weekends and work with your child on any number of things they could utilize at home. So that's an ABA private school, an ABA informed private school, there's push-in ABA, and then there's home and or community-based ABA. Keep in mind, these things are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes a student can be in an ABA school and they don't require anything else, but other times they do still need home and community-based ABA as well. So we'll have that student placed in an ABA school, and then we'll also work with a company to bridge that gap into the home and community and continue providing ABA services on a daily basis. Now, where do most parents try and stop at getting ABA therapy? They go to an IEP meeting, cornered by half a dozen school officials, and when the parent asks for ABA, the IEP team says no. They'll say the student doesn't need it, or they don't provide it, or they have something that works just as well. Why do they do that? First, funding. Schools are criminally underfunded and teachers are underpaid, and they don't have the ability to hire professionally trained staff to provide ABA throughout the school day. They'll say your child doesn't need ABA because in reality, they don't have the funding for it. And not having the funding is not a valid excuse. Second, they don't want to admit they can't educate your child. Even if they don't have the funding, they have the ability to put on the IEP that your child needs a school that has ABA, and then the district is required to begin looking for that school. So why don't they do that? Because if they do that, then they admit they can't provide services for your child, and they don't want to admit that. It's going to get them in trouble with their boss, who gets in trouble with their boss, all the way down the line. They want to pretend that they can provide exactly what your kid needs to make progress, even if they can't. Third, they could just be uninformed. Maybe they don't really understand why ABA is necessary for your kid. And that's okay, not everyone is going to have knowledge on everything. I certainly don't, and that's why I rely on expert evaluators. But if the IEP team doesn't think ABA is necessary, even if it is, you're out of luck. But if you're watching this video, you probably already went through this process. So how do you get it? Well, you file for a due process hearing, hopefully with an attorney. When I'm hired on a case, I'm not interested in going into IEP meetings because at the IEP meeting, who controls the ultimate decision? The school. Once you've spent the time already trying to get the IEP team to agree and they refuse, that's when I work to get someone with the power to put in place what your child needs. I'm going directly to the impartial hearing officer, otherwise known as the judge. I'm going to tell the judge, hey, this kid has autism, and that comes with its own set of unique needs and abilities. Those needs are not being met by the school. The student isn't progressing appropriately. Maybe their math and reading scores aren't going up, or maybe they've been working on appropriate social behavior for 3 years with no progress. On top of all that, we have expert evaluators who are recommending ABA therapy. If you don't already have that, we'll make sure we do by the time we get in front of the judge, assuming your child does need ABA therapy, of course. Once I've made my case and the school district has made theirs, the judge is going to ask, Did the school district prove that this kid can make meaningful progress even without ABA therapy? The judge is going to think that because in New York, it's the district who has to prove their argument, not the parent. If the school district doesn't convince the judge that they did the right thing, it's assumed they did the wrong thing, even if I don't say a single word. Luckily, I will be saying words, and those words will be backed up by the experts. Hopefully, if all goes well, we get a judge's order for either a new school and/or home and community-based ABA services, and the next step is just finding it and getting the services started. Keep in mind that if a judge orders ABA therapy as necessary for your child, the school district is required to fund it. I hope this has been helpful, and for more information on special education litigation, keep an eye on this page.